are several treatment classes for myeloma, such as immunomodulatory therapy and proteasome inhibitors, for example, and they're often used together. So, what is a combination therapy and why is it used so frequently for myeloma?
Absolutely. So we've learned over the years in myeloma that combining different types of drugs that work in different ways, we call those classes, so different classes of drugs, combining them together is the optimal treatment for myeloma. And back in the day, we used to use 2 drugs, and then we learned that 3 drugs are better than 2 drugs. And now we have data that 4 drugs are better than 3 drugs. And so we bring in drugs from all kinds of different categories for our patients. And we even know that for the non-transplant eligible patients, for the older patients, for example, that combining drugs from different classes is really, really important to get the best outcomes. And in general, the 3 classes that we use, the 4 classes that we use when we're treating myeloma patients initially include the immunomodulatory drugs. And examples of those are lenalidomide, also called Revlimid, pomalidomide, also called Pomalyst. Thalidomide is an older drug, but we still occasionally use it. And then we have the proteasome inhibitors, and examples of those are bortezomib or Velcade, carfilzomib or Kyprolis, and to a much lesser extent, there's one called ixazomib. And these days, we know that CD38 antibodies are really important in really getting their foothold into the initial treatment of myeloma. And examples of CD38 antibodies are daratumumab or isatuximab. And then usually we combine these treatments with steroid medicines to sort of increase the effectiveness of the regimen. So those are the classes that we use when we're treating myeloma.
Okay. And have you learned about adding one treatment to another through clinical trials, or is it trial and error?
Absolutely. We would not be where we are right now without the conduct of clinical trials. And I always tell my patients, by the time something's approved in myeloma, and we had things approved in 2022, the field is already moving past that in clinical trials. It's unbelievable. So I'll give you an example. So when daratumumab, one of these antibodies, got approved by the FDA, already when it got approved by the FDA, we knew through clinical trials that were being conducted that combining it with other types of medicines was far more potent. And we have countless examples of this. So yeah, absolutely. So every treatment that we use in myeloma, we discovered and developed through a clinical trial. And I always encourage my patients strongly to consider clinical trials. And then we have to explain, because when patients hear clinical trials, and I could be deviating a little bit here, Catherine, they often think about experimentation and testing things that are unproven. And in myeloma, we occasionally do that. But by far and away, the overwhelming majority of our clinical trials are testing agents that we know are effective. We're just trying to figure out what the best combination is and make sure that it's safe for patients.